I don't know why we find cozy comfort in watching grisly murders, but we do. Reading every Murder, She Wrote novel ever published. Rational. Oh, then I also read, what if I just said also before every book? There's a lot of them. We got a lot to do. The Murder, She Wrote novels. Books number are going to be the glue. Just read a Murder, She Wrote book that binds my reading together. You guys, I really don't remember this book. They're like 220 pages long each, and they're all the same. Well, hello, and welcome back to Reading in the Dark. My name is Byron, and I read sometimes. I know it's been 7 months since my last video, but I'm back. Suffice to say, I've been very busy. I've been working, performing again full-time. I am finally back to work. It's great. I'm very happy about it. But while I've been gone, I've actually been reading pretty consistently, which is kind of awesome. So let's just dive in. if we could, because I feel like every time I come back from a long break, what I do is I post like a life update video, and then we never get to the bookish content, and I just kind of want to flip the script and see if I can avoid that downfall this time. So I'm here, I'm back, I've been reading, so I'm also drinking some wine, drinking this lovely glass of Box Dark Malbec, they call it. I've said this once before and I'll say it again. Box wine is much better than it has any business being. I have some nice like bottles of wine too in the house, but this happens to not be one of those. Honestly, I'm just drinking boxed wine, folks. That's what we're doing. So, cheers. Ah, yeah. Hey, that glass is really clean. I'm nailing it. I honestly think that the last book I talked about was Rum and Razors, Murder, She Wrote novel number 3. Which was I read in June of 2021. Has it been a year? Maybe it's been a year. Let's just find out. My subscribership has gone up. Go figure. YouTube makes no sense whatsoever. My last video was posted 8 months ago. The last time I talked to you about something I was reading is a vlog for May 2021, which I know I posted in the early June 2021. So the last time I talked to you about any book I've read was over a year ago. Wild. That's crazy that people are still holding on, maybe he'll post a video again one day. So the next book I read in September, okay, so I did take a break there, about 3 months. The next book I read, this was in September of 2021, it was The 7 Visitations of Sydney Burgess. This is a book that I don't remember how this came to me. This might have been an Amazon First Reads, which meant that I got it for free or for very little. I don't remember for sure. I gave this book 3 stars. Here's what I remember about this book. There have been a number of books I've read that I went into thinking they were a thriller. And I read them, and then they took a turn that I wasn't expecting towards, I would say, and this isn't really a spoiler, towards, I would say, being somewhat more supernatural or spiritual in nature. And then I was like, oh, that's fine, but that's not what I thought I was signing up for. So then, in a couple of these instances, and Sorrowland by River Solomon was another example of that, which I had read a couple months before. What I'm realizing is that a lot of these books are not thrillers. They might actually be horror. And I am not an experienced horror reader at all, despite the fact, I feel like I should be. Reading in the dark. I like spooky things. My favorite book of all time is Dracula. But I haven't read a lot of contemporary horror. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. But there's a difference in tone that I am not accustomed to between... I think I thought horror novels were just thrillers, but even darker. There's actually kind of a tonal difference, I think. And obviously you can't pin any book down perfectly into a predefined set of descriptors, but that's something that I'm gleaning. And I think that misunderstanding informed my experience of this book. I think this was actually really good. The thing about this book that was quite triggering was the depiction of alcoholism. Am I thinking of the right book? Yeah. The main character in this is a recovering alcoholic, and I think drug addict. I don't remember for sure. Honestly, it's written really, really well. I have some personal experience with that in my life, not my personal experience, but others that were very close to me. And I feel like the depiction of alcoholism and like drug use was very, very strong in this book. And that could be a trigger for you, just to be aware. This basically tells the story of a woman who kills an intruder, I think. And honestly, the beginning of the book tells that story of the home invasion and then her fighting this person off was like gripping and horrifying and like really scary. Really super well done. I basically need to read this book and The Changeling by Victor LaValle and maybe Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. I think I need to read again because they're actually horror and I might like them better. So I like this book. I gave it 3 stars. I think it actually might maybe be a better book than that. But so take what I say with a grain of salt. The next book I read was an absolute banger, 5 stars, Bathhouse by P.J. Vernon. This book tells the story of a not perfectly happy or totally functioning gay relationship between 2 men. And the narrator is also a recovered addict and alcoholic. And he is cheating on his partner at a bathhouse. Okay, so we got some morally gray characters going on here. And then the man that he is like essentially hooking up with at this bathhouse tries to kill him, and he has to fight him off and barely escapes with his life. And then because he feels like he can't explain the bruises on his body and whatnot to his partner because he doesn't want him to know that he was at a bathhouse, the lies start kind of snowballing and getting worse and worse, and it becomes really... keeping all of the secrets and everything organized in his head becomes really untenable, and it like ratchets up the tension bit by bit as he tries to investigate for himself and figure out who this person was who's still kind of stalking him. It is intense. There are crazy plot twists, and it's so queer. I haven't read like a very mainstream feeling thriller that was so unapologetically queer before, and I love that. So I gave it 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. If you are uncomfortable with sex, maybe that's a trigger for you. I don't know. Obviously, sexual assault as well. But it's a really great, twisty thriller, and it features gay characters behaving badly. But gay characters. Take what we can get. The next book I read was Within These Walls by Ania Ahlborn. This is also, I think this is the other book. Yeah, this is the one I couldn't think of that I think might be a little bit more on the horror side. This basically has a split timeline. With his marriage on the rocks and his life in shambles, washed-up crime writer Lucas Graham is desperate for a comeback. So, when he is promised exclusive access to notorious cult leader and death row inmate Jeffrey Halcombe, the opportunity is too good to pass up. When Halcombe goes back on his promise of granting Lucas exclusive information on the case, he's left to put the story together on his own, but he is not alone. So basically, historical / present day, cult leader back in, I think, the 70s. Honestly, it was very, very good as I remember it. I gave it 3 stars, and I don't know why that is. This is a really weird video. I said that the daughter didn't seem 12. She seemed older. I think I said that it devolved into something a little bit too hokey for me. So I really do think this was the one. I think that there's more of a horror element to this than I was expecting, and it deserves a second look. So that's Within These Walls by Ania Ahlborn. I gave it 3 stars, and I think it may be a 4 for you, and maybe for me. Oh, then I listened to the audiobook of At Bertram's Hotel. It's an Agatha Christie whodunit. It was narrated by Stephanie Cole. What is there to say? It's Agatha Christie. It was lovely. I gave it 4 stars. I listened to this over a very long period of time, but I really, really liked it. I mean, any Agatha Christie audiobook is going to be a good one. Stephanie Cole is one of the newer narrators, but I really liked it. The next book I read was Interview with the Vampire, #1 by Anne Rice, which I gave 5 stars. I really don't know that I have to say too much about this book. It is about a vampire who has lived a very long life and agrees to sit down with a young journalist and tell his story, which spans centuries and is romantic and sprawling and beautiful. It's his historical fiction mixed with, you know, gothic horror, and it's just fabulous. That's all there is to say. 5 stars. And then I read Murder, She Wrote, books 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. You guys, I'm not going to go into detail on these books. Because I'd read like the first one and the third one maybe, and then I wanted to go back. Jessica Fletcher is just the greatest person in the world. She's brilliant and kind. If you've ever seen the TV series or watched it with your grandparents or whatever, you know, you already know. You already know. I don't have to tell you. They're just pleasant. I don't know why we as a culture find cozy comfort in watching grisly murders, but we do. And I'm among those people. I feel like the Murder, She Wrote novels are going to be the glue that binds my reading together. Because if and when I'm like not in the mood to read, or I'm like, I'm being really whiny about what I'm reading, just read a Murder, She Wrote book. They're like 220 pages long each. And they're so easy to read. And they're all the same. The characters are different, but it's the same idea. It's going to be pleasant. It's going to be charming and cozy. She's going to figure it out in the end. And the bad people are going to get their, you know, what for. And there's going to be main dialects. And there's going to be people saying stuff like, Aya. If you haven't read a Murder, She Wrote novel, just try one. They're just charming. Great writing. It is not. So basically, I have set a ridiculous goal for myself, just because I'm enjoying these books so much, of reading every Murder, She Wrote novel ever published. Because that's rational. Here's to Jessica Fletcher and Donald Bain. I'm going to read all those damn books. There's over 50 of them. So I had read 5 Murder, She Wrote novels before. And then after Interview with the Vampire, I was like, I'm going to read them all. I'm going to go back to the beginning and read them in order. So I ordered the paperbacks. And between December 14th, 2021 and March 10th, 2022, I read 7 Murder, She Wrote novels. And I'm not sorry, and I don't feel bad about it. Frankly, it's keeping me reading. I'm happy about it. And I didn't even talk about all those Murder, She Wrote books. I mean, there was one in Scotland. There was one where she's taking painting classes. There was one on a cruise ship. And I skipped a book. I skipped the one that is set at Christmas time. It's called A Yuletide Murder. I'm saving it for Christmas time. So the great thing about these books, though, is that they all, ridiculously, they all have the same, like, photoshopped, like, promotional still of Angela Lansbury on the front, and a skull or like a scary face hidden somewhere in the background, which is amazing. The Christmas one, which I'm saving, is very clever because it's just the house. The house is the face. Terrifying. Not. Then I read Choose Me by Tess Gerritsen. This is a standalone novel written by Tess Gerritsen and Gary Braver. This was really good. This tells the story of a young woman in a college town who was having an affair with her professor, found dead, apparently having jumped out of a window. Taryn Moore is young, beautiful, and brilliant, so why would she kill herself? When Detective Frankie Loomis, that's a lady detective, arrives on the scene to investigate the girl's fatal plunge from her apartment balcony, she knows in her gut there's more to the story, especially after the autopsy reveals that the college senior was pregnant. To English professor Jack Dorian, Taryn was the ultimate fantasy. Now she's dead, his problems are just beginning. So, basically, was it a consensual affair? Probably. Is he a bad guy? Kind of. Was she a little disturbed? Maybe. You read the story from her perspective and from his perspective, back and forth. Tess Gerritsen wrote the chapters that are from her perspective. Gary Braver wrote the chapters that are from his perspective. And their writing melds together quite well. And it's uncomfortable. I gave it 4 stars, which is, I think, the correct answer. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I always liked Tess Gerritsen. It was a cool premise. It held my attention. I read it very quickly, from 3:15 to 3:18. So it took 3 days in March to read it. 4 enthusiastic stars. The next book I read was In a Cottage in a Wood by Cass Green. I don't know why I'm doing that accent. Her dream home will become her worst nightmare. Okay. A strange encounter. Nev comes across a troubled woman called Isabel on Waterloo Bridge late one night. Isabel forces a parcel into Nev's hands and jumps to her death in the icy Thames below. An unexpected gift. 2 weeks later, as Nev's wreck of a life in London collapses, an unexpected lifeline falls into her lap. A charming cottage in Cornwall left to her by Isabel, the woman on the bridge. If you enjoy thrillers, this is a good one. There were twists. I was surprised. My attention was kept, etc., etc. But it's in a cottage in a wood. Like, it's like she's in the wood. That's my thing. Like, that's my thing. Like, she's in the woods, in a cottage. Literally the reason I bought the book, and also why I enjoyed it. It has, like, a cozy / creepy / claustrophobic setting. And therefore I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. Had a good time. Unlike the next book I read, Consumed by J.R. Ward. Consumed by J.R. Ward. This is a novel about... This is about a female firefighter who's a badass. She's real tough. And she makes potentially a reckless call during a firefight and puts people in danger, including herself. This other guy, this rough and tumble, like, really stereotypical romance novel, like, kind of asshole, but hot asshole type alpha male character guy, has to save her, but in order to save her, he has to, like, chop her arm off with his axe. And so, of course, they have sex several times during the novel. You know, while she's investigating, she becomes an arson investigator for her, like, pivot in life, because she can no longer be a firefighter missing an arm. And it honestly was not very good. It was fine, and then the depiction of this man was just so gross, and their romance, to me, made no sense. And I was just like, boo, no, like, while I was reading it, I was like, this is stupid. And I didn't mind the sex scenes. Sex scenes are fine, and they were sort of written fine. I did not like that man. I did not like him for her. I think she can do better. The book irritated me, so I gave it 2 stars. 2 stars does not mean a book is garbage. 1 star means a book is garbage. 2 stars means didn't really like it. The next book I read, Strangers We Know, by Elle, Marr. Don't even remember this book. I can tell you I gave it 2 stars. Acacia Ives marked it as want to read. I don't know, if you should. Adopted when she was only days old, Ivy knows little about her lineage, but when she's stricken with mystery illness, the results of a genetic test to identify the cause attract the FBI. You guys, I really don't remember this book. I know I read this, because she meets this guy in a Starbucks. According to her DNA, she's related to the Full Moon Killer, who has terrorized the Pacific Northwest for decades. Ivy is the FBI's hope to stop the enigmatic predator from killing again. Yeah, so she meets this, like, woman that I guess she's related to her younger cousin, and there's some kind of, like, long-held generational, like, secret, and maybe a cult, I think, was involved. You guys, I gotta admit, I remember reading this book, and some of these plot points do sound familiar. I don't remember much about this book, though. This person wrote, "This was the most atrocious 3 pages I've read in my life." And then there are swear words. I mean, yeah, it wasn't great. I wouldn't say that. But it was not great. I gave it 2 stars. The next book I read was Baby Teeth. Let's find out how to say this person's name, because I don't know how to pronounce her name. And that's rude.
Hey there. My name is Zoya Stage, and my...
Zoya. Okay. So the next book I read was Baby Teeth by Zoya Stage. This book was excellent. This book tells the story of a mother, a woman, and her husband and their daughter, Hannah. The woman is a lifelong Crohn's disease sufferer, and she had a really difficult pregnancy with Hannah, her daughter, who I think is supposed to be like 7, because of her Crohn's disease. And she has a lot of, like, internalized... sort of like discomfort / disgust with her own body, and she has her self-confidence, you know, is not great, but she's healthy now. And she's trying to take care of her daughter, who has never spoken. And she and her husband have made every effort with doctors and therapists and whatnot, and neurologists, to figure out why she's not speaking and to try to get her to speak. You read the book from the perspective of the mother, Suzette, and from Hannah's perspective. Both are really well written, and I enjoyed reading from both, so the flip-flopping did not bother me. The daughter is very interesting. At one point there's some sort of question of maybe she's been possessed by a French personality, who does speak. So then a couple times when the father's not around, she will speak to the mother in a French accent. The first thing she says is like, "I'm not Hannah." She's like, "Say what?" She's pretty bad. She does some not nice things to her mom. But the thing is, she's perfectly behaved and acts like an angel when she's around her daddy. So he questions whether his wife is either imagining these things from stress and anxiety, or if she's doing something to their daughter to make her treat her this way. So there's tension in their relationship. There's nothing but tension in the relationship between the mother and daughter. And it spirals from there. I really liked it. I can't really relate to the whole parenthood thing, but it touches on this idea that there's a dark side to parenthood, that like children are lovely and they are innocent little souls and they are, they need our love and our support and all this stuff, but that at the same time, kids are kids and they're not perfect and sometimes they're not nice. And sometimes it's not easy to be a parent. It's not all hugs and kisses and giggles and trips to Disney World. Sometimes kids act out and are not fair to their parents, and anyway, so I've read one or two other books that touched on that, how difficult it can be when you're a parent and you have those thoughts of like, oh, I just want to get away from this child for one moment, and then you punish yourself for even thinking that because society tells us you're not allowed to ever feel that way. Bad mommy, So it's very interesting, really well written, and very memorable. So I highly recommend it, and that is Baby Teeth by Joje Stage. And then the last book I read is Murder, She Wrote number 12, Murder at the Powderhorn Ranch. Jessica takes a trip to her friend's dude ranch in Colorado. She's been learning to fly. She doesn't drive a car, but she's been learning to fly. And there's a murder, and she has to solve it. Just nice, just a cozy little mystery, 3 stars. Liked it. It's good. I recommend Murder, She Wrote. And I'm going to have to take a little bit of a break from Murder, She Wrote books now because I think the next book is like a Halloween-themed book. Are you kidding me? But now I have to wait until spoopy season. So that's it. We're caught up. Wow. We are caught up. Those are all the books that I read since the last time I talked about a book on YouTube. What else do you want to talk about? I think we're at time, though. So that's it. That's this video. I read all those books. How many books did we just talk about? We just talked about quite a few. 18 books. So those are the 18 books that I have read. I just became very aggressive. Smash the like button, you guys. We just talked about 18 books. Yeah! As I sip my wine. So thank you for being with me for this little wrap-up. Those are the books that I've read since the last time I talked to you about books. I wish I could tell you when the next time I will see you again is. Can't, but I think it'll be soon. And in the meantime, I'm going to be reading Listen to Me by Tess Gerritsen, the next Rizzolian Isles, which was just released today. If you have any thoughts on anything at all, honestly, write them in the comments, unless it's just to tell me, something nasty or negative, in which case, I don't care. I would love to hear from you all about these books, about other recommendations you may have, about how your reading has been going, etc. And have you read a Murder, She Wrote book? Have you? I realize that they're just light reading, and I think that there's a place for that in this world, and I think that they are saving my life at the moment. So that's my video. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I will be here in the dark reading. Cheers!